I live in a normal suburban town. It was the 4th of July weekend, so I had a mini party in my backyard. My parents were away, so it'd work out perfectly. I invited about 20 people. We have a pool, so I told people to bring their bathing suits. I also had some fireworks left over from last year that I told everyone we'd shoot off towards the end of the night. I tried to keep the gathering strictly in the backyard, because I didn't fully trust people not to make a mess inside the house. Everything went fine. Anywhere from 20 to 30 people showed up. Everyone stayed in the yard. Some people jumped in the pool. Others played drinking games. And later in the night, we shot off some fireworks in the street. The party started to die down after 12, and by 1:30, everyone was gone. There were a million red plastic cups in the yard and tons of empty cans and bottles, but that was a mess to worry about tomorrow. I was beat. I went inside and changed out of my clothes and brushed my teeth, then crawled into bed. I was pretty buzzed, so I didn't think I'd have any trouble falling asleep. Suddenly, outside, I heard firecrackers going off. It sounded like it was right outside my window in our backyard. I got up and looked out the window, and to my confusion and downright horror, I saw a line of firecrackers going off next to our pool. My initial reaction was to yell out the window. Who did that? I figured it had to be one of my friends who stayed behind pranking me. I ran downstairs into the back door. I slid open the glass door but kept the bug screen door closed. I looked around the backyard and said again, "Who's out there?" By now, the firecrackers had finished going off. Someone was back there, and they just set them off. That doesn't happen by accident. I texted as many people as I could think to and then the group chat, asking who was still at my house. Only a few people answered, most likely because a lot of people were asleep already. Everyone who answered said they're in bed or at home though. I stepped outside into the backyard and looked around for a minute, and when I saw no one, he went back in, shut the door and locked it, and went back upstairs to my room. I was barely in bed for 5 minutes before hearing something come from the upstairs living room down the hall. Then I heard the sound of a beer pong ball falling off the table and bouncing on the wood floor. My heart started to race. Was someone in the house? Did one of my friends pass out on one of the downstairs couches, or maybe in one of the other bedrooms? While this seemed like a possibility, I wasn't about to go out there. I got out of bed and went to the door to put my ear up to it and listen. I didn't hear anything for a moment. I waited, and then clear as day, I heard footsteps approaching my door, then the doorknob jiggling. The door was locked. There was a loud bang on the door. I screamed through the door to get out of here or I'll shoot you. A deep male's voice on the other side said, "Jay, you in there?" And I heard another deep voice in the room with me say, "Yeah." I turned to the corner by my drawers and realized there was someone there. I screamed my soul out as this man came over to me, holding what looked like a gun in his hand. He then put his hand over my mouth and told me to shut up or he'd kill me. He then unlocked the door and opened it, and there was another masked man. They whispered to each other as they had me at gunpoint now, sitting on the bed. One of them then said to me, "Stay right there and don't move." The other guy left the room and went straight to my parents' room. He came back and asked the combination to my parents' safe, which I said I had no idea, which was the truth. There were a total of 3 intruders in the house. One kept me at gunpoint, while the other 2 pilfered the house, stealing my mom's jewelry that was left out, along with any other valuables they found. After the longest 10 minutes of my life, one of the men yelled, "Let's go," and the man who had me at gunpoint left the room, and I heard them all hurry out the back door. I tried to see what kind of car they left in through a window, but it appeared they didn't park near my house. I called 911 right away. As soon as police arrived, they asked if we had any cameras around the house, which we didn't. They then asked if I got any of the names or saw any of their faces, and all I could give them was that one of them was referred to as Jay by the others. They asked if I saw the getaway vehicle, and Primera Saeed. No. The police asked a bunch of neighboring houses if they had cameras that may have picked up on the robbers, and after my neighbors all reviewed their doorbell cameras, none of them picked anything up. I think my house was targeted by a group who saw I was having a party, and they set the firecrackers off to lead me outside of the house, so they could sneak in. That's the most likely explanation to me. My parents were livid with me for having the party, as they believed that led to the robbery, but they also were relieved I'm okay and sympathetic that I had to experience this. Because of this experience, I'm a strong advocate for having security cameras around your house. Music. It was the 4th of July, 2015. The park by my house was having their annual fireworks show, but it always gets way too crowded and chaotic. Plus parking is non-existent. Little did most people know, there's a little sump next to the park that had a perfect view of the fireworks show. I found this out through one of my friends one year. This sump was accessible through one of the dead-end residential streets that ran alongside the park. Since the 4th was on a Saturday this year, it would probably be even more crowded, but it would also make a perfect date. I was talking to this girl, Ashley. I met in one of my classes the previous semester, and we'd already been on a few dates over the course of a few months. I asked her if she'd want to go to the fireworks show with me, and she said she already really wanted to go. So, absolutely. She came to my house first, and then we walked from my house to the park. Since it was so close, and we were bringing alcohol, I told her we'd have our own little private spot to watch the show at that no one else really knew about, and she said she was super down. Along with some tequila and soda, I brought a big blanket for us to lay on in my backpack. There was already a lot of commotion by the park entrance. We walked right past it as the cars were piling up in the parking lot. We continued down the dead end where the sump was. The sump was rectangular and fenced off, but it was very easy to get inside. The gate wasn't even locked. Inside the sump was just a bunch of trees, and then at the bottom of it, a small grass clearing where we planned to lay out the blanket. I led us to the gate, which, yet again, wasn't locked, and I quietly opened and closed it. I told her to be careful as we walked downhill into the sump. It was around 8 o'clock, which was when the fireworks were supposed to start. I laid out the blanket on the smoothest part of the ground. I didn't take into account how dark it would be in there before the fireworks started, so we both turned on our phone flashlights and laid them down just as temporary lights. We started making tequila sodas right away. From down in the sump, we couldn't really hear any other people from up in the park, just the occasional car horns honking. It was right around the time we started the first drink that both of us heard something from behind us. It was like the sound of brush being stepped on. We turned around to see darkness. I pointed my flashlight over there, but it didn't really reach that far. The iPhones back then were like the 6s. I don't remember their flashlights being the best. Ashley asked me how likely it was that other people would come down here. I replied that, other than a couple of my friends knowing about it, I doubted anyone else would come down. I explained to her that it could have been a small animal. The first fireworks were shot into the air, which startled us. The fireworks would light up the entire sump briefly, though especially the bigger ones and when multiple were shot at once. At this point, we drank and watched the fireworks for a solid few minutes before. Again, I heard something behind us. I don't think Ashley heard it, but she looked back when I looked and asked what I was looking at. I said nothing, not wanting to scare her. This was my idea, after all. But now, I was getting paranoid. I decided to turn around and stare into the trees and brush, and as the sump lit up again from multiple big fireworks exploding, I saw a black figure standing in the trees and brush above us. They appeared to be hiding. I whispered, "There's someone up there." She turned and looked, but now it went dark again because there was a short few-second gap in fireworks. When the sump lit up again, the figure I saw wasn't there anymore. I surely freaked her out, though, because she said she wanted to leave. Since we were both definitely creeped out now, we agreed to leave while the fireworks were still going, lighting the sump up. I packed up the blanket and alcohol, and of course, the fireworks show ended right there. It was now dark and quiet again in the sump, so we turned our flashlights back on and walked up the hill. As we neared the top, I could unhelp but shine my flashlight into the trees and the general vicinity that I saw that figure before, and I felt my heart skip a beat, seeing a black figure again, maybe 10 feet away. It appeared to be a person in a black hoodie or a robe with the hood up, even though it was like an 82-degree night. They were standing behind a big tree, but then, as if in response to the light, they started to run through the brush at us. I pushed Ashley along to hurry up as they yelled to go. We got the hell out of there and basically ran down the street until we were around other people. We weren't followed. I'm not sure what that person was doing in there, but it seemed they were stalking us the entire fireworks show, and them running towards us meant they wanted to hurt us. I only saw one person, so I believe they were alone, but I could be wrong. I stayed clear from going in that sump ever again. Music. After several friends of mine and I were done lighting off fireworks, one of my friends, Zach, took about 4 of us to this unfinished house in a relatively new neighborhood. 2 of the people became disinterested pretty quickly, so they left before we even started examining the house. leaving only 3 of us. Zach, myself, and Adam. None of the walls were completed on the house. It mainly just consisted of floorboards and 2x4s holding up the place. You could see outside in most parts of the house, and the basement had a cement floor and cement walls. The house consisted of 2 floors and a basement, so 3 floors in total. The steps were completed enough so that we could travel up and down them easily. As we started inspecting the house, Zach told us to keep our phone flashlights off as much as possible, because the houses next to us were finished and inhabited, and the people living there might call the cops if they noticed us snooping around. We, therefore, were mainly just going off the moonlight from outside for vision. The 3 of us stuck together most of the time. As soon as we walked upstairs, we could hear a voice from the main floor or the basement, so we would run downstairs to find out what it is. And as soon as we did that, we would hear a noise from upstairs, so we would run up there. This pattern continued for a good while. We assumed the noises were just the wind knocking over pieces of wood, pipes, or whatever else that was lying around, or it was some kind of animal running around the house. Eventually, as we were walking slowly in the basement, trying to discover who or what it was making the noises, I saw someone slowly walking up the stairs next to me. I could see a light emanate from his or her phone, but it wasn't strong enough for me to be able to see who he or she was. I whispered to Zach and Adam, "Is that you?" They both said it wasn't them, and it turns out that they were both right in front of me. Shortly after I asked that, I saw a bunch of pipes that were leaned against the unfinished wall fall over down the stairs. It didn't look like they fell over by accident. It looked like someone deliberately pushed them over. At that point, I knew whatever we were hearing was not an animal or the wind. I knew that someone else was in the house. After that encounter, the 3 of us stormed out of the house. We all stood on the neighborhood road a decent distance from the house, discussing what just happened. Zach was convinced that the person I saw was one of the 2 friends who decided to leave earlier. I told him that there was no way it was either of them. One of them was a girl who didn't want to get her shoes dirty, and the other was a guy who was dating this girl and was around her all the time. So I couldn't picture either of them doing that. I tried to convince them that it wasn't them, but he didn't fully believe me. He then realized that he lost his keys, and he had to go back in the house to find them anyway. That left Adam and me to stand around to wait for him. As Adam and I were waiting for Zach, I thought I could see a big dark figure coming from around the right side of the house, but I couldn't tell for sure. We were still trying to not use our flashlight, so the neighbors wouldn't notice us. After a few minutes, Zach came back with his keys and said he saw someone in the house again. I told him what I saw, still convinced that it was our other 2 friends messing with us. He walked around the left side of the house. Adam and I followed him. When he got to the back of the house, I saw him jump up and say, "Run." We ran away. He later said he saw a tall, dark figure reaching his arms up and slowly moving towards him. I ran out to the road in front of the house. I thought both Adam and Zach were following me, but I could only see Zach behind me when I stopped running. There was a giant dumpster in front of me. I was on the left side of it, and Zach was on the other side. I saw Zach look to his right to an area behind the dumpster that I could unsee from where I was standing. I heard him say, "We don't want any trouble." He then told me to run to his truck. He drove me to the house in his truck, and Adam drove separately. Apparently, Adam had already gone to his car. I ran towards the truck, and we took off. Zach told me that he saw a big dark figure approaching him after he said, "We don't want any trouble." He saw the figure going behind the dumpster, heading in my direction. And that's why he told me to run for the truck. Adam later mentioned that as he took off in his car, he saw 3 figures running after him in the rearview mirror. Chances are these figures could have been neighbors messing with us, but the way in which they acted was very strange, considering how big and tall some of them seemed to be. It's hard for me to believe that they were just teenagers. Zach was in his early 20s, Adam was in his late teens, and I was in my late 20s when this happened. I couldn't help but wonder who those people were and how capable they were of doing something far worse than just messing with us and scaring us away. I couldn't help but wonder if maybe there were some weird members of a cult who regularly got together in that house late at night, and that's why they were trying to scare us away. Since this was the 4th of July, there was a bigger chance of weirdos walking around, but Zach said that there were people who chased after him another time. He was at that same house. I wasn't there with him that time, so I can't go into too much detail on that story, but I wonder if those were the same people.